Well, I'm sitting here, ladies and gentlemen, listening to the show over at my folks' house with the family. You're saying, no, you're on the radio. No, I'm not. This is an original first hour of the July 4th, 2014 transmission that I'm taping Thursday afternoon. And then we've got a retransmission of a very powerful interview we did with David Icke, I think one of the best ones ever, coming up in the second and third hour. We've had a lot of requests to rebroadcast that. And then I'll be back Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. with a Sunday transmission. And I got in here with a copy of the Declaration of Independence, and I got in here with a bunch of news articles. And what I think I want to get into is just how America has changed and what a police state we are versus where we should be going. And while the police state is pointed at the American people, the border is wide open, and illegal aliens are being given free welfare and bust in anywhere they want to go in the country, showing the whole war on terror and the, quote, al-Qaeda threat is a giant joke. We know it is. We're not saying there aren't radical Muslim terrorists out there. What we are saying and proving is criminal globalist interest in NATO, Saudi Arabia, our government, you name it. Israel. Netanyahu came out last week or a week and a half ago and said, oh, yeah, we need to help ISIS, take over Iraq. It'll destabilize the Muslims. Destabilize them? Putting one of the worst groups, if not the worst al-Qaeda group, in charge of Iraq that we went and overthrew to put an elected government in that's been pro-America. Compared to ISIS, they are. I mean, that's an evil policy. And when I came back through customs this week from a vacation, I ran into the customs guy because they put this big cross on the computer printout I got in the first kiosk I went through. Basically like a harassment no-fly list. And the guy knew who I was a listener and said, this is outrageous, and literally started cussing. And he was a veteran, and then it had come back into customs after 9/11 because a family member got killed. And he was a listener, and he was shaking with anger. Shaking in anger. And here's the other good news. I'm not tooting my horn. I didn't tell this the other day when I got back, Wednesday. The customs guy I talked to in Grand Cayman, where your bags come up, the head customs guy, he was the boss there, said, oh, Alex Jones, I was listening to your show yesterday. And, said he really appreciates what I say and what I do. And then I ran into 2 cops that were listeners, and I got mobbed. I mean, I've never been mobbed like this in Austin. That's the closest other place. In the middle of the Caribbean, south of Cuba. Again, I'm not saying I'm a big shot. What I'm saying is freedom is incredibly popular. So on July 4th, 2014, I want to give you the good message. Yesterday, we had Professor Daryl Hamamoto on. Incredible. He contacted us and said, I've heard that name before. I've seen him all over TV. He's a sociologist, I guess you call it anthropologist, political scientist. And he's just basically Rockefeller Foundation originally, awarded. And he's an insider blowing the whistle and just conferring and augmenting with data everything we already know. And he said a bunch of the other professors know the truth and are about to go public. They're threatening his job right now, but he doesn't care. He was happy because that's the spirit of liberty. That's the spirit that can't be stopped. That's the spirit that gets me fired up.
This is Leanne McAdoo for InfoWarsLife.com. I'm here with Dr. Edward Group, Master Herbologist and Chief Formulator behind the InfoWars Life products. Dr. Group, what have you been hearing from women who've started taking Super Female Vitality?
We've heard the reviews and feedback from Super Male Vitality, from emails to even excited callers on the radio. Now, the answer for women is here. A new formulation specifically designed for the female body, Super Female Vitality, delivers 10 key herbs that work synergistically to revitalize the unique biology of women.
I'm so glad that you guys made this for women. When he brought me home the bottle of Super Female, I had tons of energy, tons of motivation, a lot of drive. My husband thinks I've been in a better mood. Our relationship, all I can say is it's a lot better now.
I've just started taking Super Female Vitality from InfoWarsLife.com. Supplies are limited, so secure yours today at InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or dial 1-888-253-3139.
I want to read a little bit from the Declaration of Independence, and I forgot to get it out of the printer out there. They'll bring it to me in a few minutes. But there's a part in there, we tend to forget the Declaration of Independence exists, but it's as important or more important than the Bill of Rights, and way more important than the Constitution. I mean, we think of the Constitution as all those documents, but the Constitution isn't as good as Declaration of Independence or Bill of Rights because it had all the states involved, the former colonies, in 1798, and there was some lawyer stuff snuck into there. It's still diametrically opposed to tyranny. The globalists hate it and demonize it 24/7. It's just not a fount of goodness like the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence. And here it is. Down in the second paragraph, it says, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for lighter transient causes. And then they go on. And that's, if you've really studied history, most revolutions turn into something worse. Hell, they have, revolutions all the time in African countries. Generally gets worse. There's no stability. They have them in, Latin America all the time. It just gets worse. They've had them in Europe and things just got worse. One reason Europe had the Renaissance, and I'm not calling for culling of the population, but the elites mainly lived in the cities. About half the population, it's estimated, on the high end, a third on the low end, died in the Great Plague, or waves of the Black Death, bubonic plague. And it wiped out so many of the elites that they couldn't spend all their time for about 100 years persecuting everyone out in the countryside and making sure no one sold goods that weren't stamped by the king. The monopoly, the crony capitalist. The crony capitalists were busy getting bled and taking all their quack cures while the people on the countryside, practicing what they called witchcraft, it really wasn't, herbs, lived. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, ashes to ashes, we all fall down. Is that how it goes?
That's correct.
That's how the song goes. That's a song about you get the red marks, you die. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, ashes to ashes, we all fall down. It wasn't that Europe had ever really been any better than anybody else. It's that they had some of the Roman technologies still in the government facilities and the church facilities, but not widely distributed. And so then once government got brought down, some of that knowledge got out. The people created a middle class. It was off to the races. And it was still wars and disasters and all sorts of problems. But that's why Western culture, to dumb it down, has been so powerful and so important. Was because ruling elites got wiped out. And you had a revolution of the people, kind of like a new frontier. Like the American frontier experience and Manifest Destiny had all its own problems. But for all of its issues, there were a few cases of groups being able to have freedom away from government and to have a wildcat economy. So it created the most inventions, the most science, the most freedom in comparison to the other tyrannies. But I'm kind of gone off the deep end ranting about that. The point is, America has been exceptional in much of its history. Exceptionally bad and exceptionally good. And it wasn't Americans that said that. It was other people around the world. And they wanted to get here because it was so much better. Now we're going the way of stagnation, of gang-run government, of oligarchy, of a kleptocracy, of truly totalitarianism or total tyranny. And so there's a real hunger for freedom again, but there's an establishment understanding that there is that hunger, so they're trying to suppress it. But everything you try to suppress ends up just exploding. You try to bury the truth, it explodes that much stronger. To use a cheesy line from episode 4 of Star Wars, the tighter you squeeze Governor Tark, the more star systems will slip through your fingers. These are cliches, but they're true. And so governments shouldn't be changed for light or transient reasons, transient causes, to quote the text correctly. But when you've got a eugenicist-based, New World Order, globalist-based, truly anti-human, psychopathic system, playing everyone off against each other, trying to dumb the population down, it isn't a right, it isn't a duty, it is an absolute survival imperative that you resist it. And you resist it peacefully because the pen is mightier than the sword as long as you can. But there may come a time, as Winston Churchill said, where you have no other choice but to physically resist it. And that is why the American people instinctively are buying guns and food and preparing, not because they want to fight. They're saying, just leave us alone, you know, to quote Howard Beale in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my steel-belted radios and, you know, we'll leave you alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. We've got to get out of our trance. I don't have all the answers, but we've got to get out of our comfort zone. We've got to get mad. We've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value. That's what it comes down to. In the USA, ladies and gentlemen, look at these headlines from Austin to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to California, to peaceful students sitting out at UC Davis being sprayed with pepper spray for no reason. You try to chalk the sidewalk in front of your own house, you get arrested in Austin. It's totally protected speech. It's a public commons. People have always drawn on the walls and the ground. Rome tried to ban it and they could. They don't want the little people having speech. They don't want you being free on the internet. They don't want talk radio. They don't want Infowars.com or DrudgeReport.com or anything else they don't control. Look at these headlines. Santa arrested in Austin for drawing on sidewalk with chalk. Huffington Post. Review Journal. Sidewalk chalk. This is Las Vegas. Could land 4 protesters in jail for a year. A year. You know, people ask what I'm going to do today as I take this Thursday. I'm going out with a video camera tomorrow morning with my slave phone, my iPhone, and I'm going to chalk. And if I get arrested, I do. And if I'm a bad guy because of that, so be it. That's what I'm doing July 4th. Everybody listening to my voice should go to the store, whatever you got to do, and chalk that we have a First Amendment, we have freedom, and we have a Second Amendment, and we're not backing down. Jail for using chalk on sidewalks. City needs to erase this error. That's out of Orlando. That's Florida. Sidewalk chalk. Artist acquitted after facing 13 years in jail over vandalism. International Business Times. See, it's backfiring. Look at this from last July 4th. July 4th park rules. No generators, propane grills. Number 1. Number 2, no tents or shelters. Number 3, police will be conducting searches of bags and coolers for reasons of public safety. Yeah, we're going to take your freedom for your safety. That's the greatest danger. Number 4, no alcoholic beverages at any time. No personal fireworks, including novelty fireworks and sparklers. No dogs or pets allowed all day. Skate park, baseball court, tennis court, and Kids Cove will be closed at 7 p.m. Notice the entire park is under video surveillance. And you can argue it's for your safety, except that isn't angels running this system. Angels don't play this harp. It's the globalist. So that's just some of the news on that front. And then you've got what's happening now. California gun confiscation bill passes. Approves $24 million to expedite legal gun seizure. Now they're saying if one person says they're scared of your guns, even if you did nothing wrong, they'll take your guns. NYPD cracks down on long guns that hold more than 5 rounds. Now they're trying to ban those. Obama administration proposes new executive gun background checks with executive orders, just like open borders with executive orders. It goes on and on and on what they're doing. And then I get into all the other stacks. The TSA, upping security for the 4th of July to grope your genitals because terrorists might be everywhere when the government publicly funds ISIS and Al-Qaeda is turning the whole Middle East and much of Africa over to them. It's absolutely ridiculous that this is happening, that this is unfolding. And again, I don't even blame the poor TSA people. They're there to just break our will. They're not sophisticated to know that. The general public isn't sophisticated enough. And I'm here to decompartmentalize people so they understand what's happening. Look at this headline. North Dakota man sentenced to jail in controversial drone arrest case. He's the first American to be sentenced to jail because cows kept coming on his property under the law there. The 3rd time you get to keep the cows. We own cows. We know the rules. We've had our cows taken because they kept getting to the fence. 3rd time, neighbor gets the cows. You go back to get the cows, they go, sorry, they keep coming over here and having sex with my prize cows. Your bull does. I'm keeping your bull, and I'm selling him for hamburger meat. In fact, we even have, like, hillbilly, what do you call it, the Hathcocks and the McCoys? I mean, we literally have, like, 30-year running deals with people that have taken some of our cows. But, my grandpa didn't do anything because they had, his bull was over there, getting a little strange, as they say. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Fix your fence, Jones.
But now Homeland Security goes after you with a Predator drone, and you go to jail. And they send a SWAT team. I mean, look at what they're doing to your bank deposits, tracking everything you do, making you pay for them. That's what the whole cashless society is about. The NSA admittedly spying on everything you do. Microphones going up from Chicago to Austin, Texas. We're going to come back with Obama's abuses of power, the police armored vehicles they're buying, Big Brother and NSA surveillance. But we're also going to look at some of the positive things that's happened in the U.S. But we've gone from #1 in every category to near the end of the pack or dead last in almost every other. Under big government, under socialism, under crony capitalism, under insider deals. It's time to change course back towards America.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Look, I want to be clear about something. Kit Daniels had a story yesterday. Let me go up to Infowars.com. He had a story on Thursday, confirmed Texas spending millions to send Texas Ranger state troopers to secure open border. And they're actually doing their job, not just writing tickets and getting revenue. The state should just allot enough money they need to operate, not have them write tickets to old ladies all day. Down there, actually trying to stop all the criminals and people that are pouring across. And we saw that a few weeks ago and documented it. Now it's in the Austin American-Statesman. Headline, immigration strain is felt statewide, Texas officials say. DPS Director Steve McCraw told members of the Texas House Homeland Security and Public Safety Committee that his agency is coordinating saturation patrols in high-threat areas along the state's southern border. Shifting DPS troopers, Texas Rangers, and DPS equipment to South Texas has drained the agency's ability to respond in other parts of the state, he acknowledged. I mean, you talk about Al-Qaeda, folks. That's a real group. They're taking over much of the Middle East right now. Our government's arming them. Again, you're being groped at the airport or on the highway. They got checkpoints, but the border is wide open. And so the state, it shows government's not one monolithic group. The state of Texas, to its credit, is actually doing what the state police are supposed to do, and that's protect those counties on the border. Sure, they don't have a jurisdiction right on the border. That's federal. And that's one of the few things the feds are supposed to do. They're not doing it. So even citizens, if the police don't do their job or others don't, it's failure to render aid. The state police are rendering aid. And they're getting shot at, by the way. That's coming out every couple days. So it's a real deal down there. They're down there in gunboats, heavily armored, but getting shot up. And the Mexican drug cartels have 50 caliber rifles, tanks, you name it. I don't hear Obama saying a word about the armored vehicles that the Mexican drug lords have and the Mexican military has who's involved in all this. It's all about how I'm bad because I own a gun and I'm a libertarian and Homeland Security's for me. Well, statistically, the Tea Party type folks have the lowest crime rate out there. So, again, it's a bunch of bunk. It's an attempted total political takeover. But I think Obama and the globalists have miscalculated big time with this abuse of power. And they're finally starting to wake people up. But you think about the abuse of power, shutting down our power plants, putting our military under NATO command, arming Al-Qaeda, overthrowing Libya for Al-Qaeda, which they admit's many times worse. The Obamacare tax, raising 7 taxes on blue-collar people, 21 taxes total. I mean, it's just monstrous. It's absolutely monstrous. And now members of Congress, like Randy Weber, are calling Obama a dictator, and he is becoming one. That doesn't mean he won't leave office. It just means he's turning the bureaucracy into a permanent dictatorship, and that means they do what they want, not what the law says, not what the Congress says. They want to open the border up, ship the illegals in on government buses, they do it. I don't declare a Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 2014. I declare a declaration of survival. A declaration of sanity, a declaration that I want out of crazy town because the socialists hate this country so much and the foreign banks want to wreck it and loot it. They've turned loose the socialists who really think they're going to create some type of magical Puff the Magic Dragon land here in the United States by shipping in the dregs of the world. And I'm not against the dregs, even if they wear 6X underwear. It's just that it's not my job to pay more and more taxes to take care of you when your country won't accept me. It's a load of crap, and it just shows how tolerant Americans are and how they manipulated our Christian ethic with political correctness in the 50s and 60s to get rid of some of the major evils that were going on, to only boomerang it and replace it with stuff just as bad. In fact, I'd say even worse, because the other stuff you could see out in the open and was obviously a fraud. This stuff is creeping and sneaky and just slathering with fake niceties. Makes me want to vomit.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
It is July 4th, 2014. And no, America, by many yardsticks, has been incredibly corrupt and evil, but by other measurements, incredibly dynamic and free and revolutionary in the amount of individual human empowerment when measured against other cultures and societies. That's what it comes down to. And so we want to uplift the better angels, as one philosopher once said, not just in men and women, but in this nation. We want to really enjoy the fruits of true free expression and human liberty. And we are faced by the controlled technocrats of the autocratic left that are racing globally to take over because they have the better camouflage as liberals. And then they're willing accomplices in the Republican or conservative echelons in different parts of the world. We are here to simply point out that common sense is not dead. Now, I want to go to your phone calls on this July 4th transmission that I taped on Thursday. And we had callers at the end of the show, so I said, why not just do a segment with those callers like Dre, Jane, George, Nathan, and some others that we're patiently holding. So we're going to go to you right now, ladies and gentlemen, and then go back into an exploration of what is freedom versus tyranny. And how much more authoritarian will this country get before things turn around? And what can we do to turn it around? So that's coming up. And then a retransmission of a very powerful interview I did a few weeks ago with David Icke on this July 4th global transmission. And again, I'm going to be with my family on July 4th listening to this broadcast. We'll be back Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. With the original Sunday transmission. Now, Dre called in, sparking me to end up doing these taped calls because I didn't want to hang up on him at the end of the show, and said, look, I'm Hispanic, and I don't want open borders. And, you know, he said it like, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel weird because, you know, if you're Hispanic, you're just supposed to do what the media says. I mean, that's not what he said, but that was kind of the inference that, you know, if you don't want illegals from all over the world, I don't care where they're from, China, Europe, you know, doesn't matter, to just come in, get free welfare, and be instantly legalized, why, it's crazy. And the thing to do if you're Hispanic, because that's the majority of the illegal immigrants, is to just legalize them. Folks, no one in the world does this. The globalists are doing it to collapse the country. And the issue is, it isn't that we don't like Hispanics. My gosh, I'd be all for it if they were libertarians, I'll be honest with you. But they're not. The numbers don't lie. Look them up. Over 90% of these new immigrants the last 20 years are put on welfare, turn into Democratic Party operatives. Republicans go along with it, and they vote like Californians do to take the guns. They're literally banning them wholesale right now in California. I had a professor on yesterday, today as we tape this, Thursday, Professor Yamamoto, breaking it all down, or Hamamoto. So this is the reality of what we're facing, and it is a cold-blooded takeover. And it is a manipulation of people's historical, cultural pride. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that I had family on the Mayflower, and I'm proud of the fact that I've got Comanche and, you know, other Native American bloodlines. And I'm proud of the fact that I'm Irish and Scottish and German and Alsatian. Quite frankly, I'm proud of every interesting group that makes up my being and who I am. But as Professor Daryl Hamamoto said on the show Thursday, this is artificial. This is a plan. And it's run by people who do not have our best interest at heart. So it must be resisted. He's doing that despite all the persecution he's going through. So without further ado, we'll talk to Dre, George, Nathan, and Jane here on July 4th, 2014, as our borders are gone. And what defines a country more than anything? It's borders. And that citizens have rights that immigrants don't have. Well, in the new America, citizens have less rights than the illegals. When you fly in as a citizen, get ready for a proctology exam. But when you come in as an illegal out of Mexico from Latin America, bus directly up, You are injected directly into the welfare line. You're given bus tickets to be distributed wherever you want. But if you're a member of the Congress, you can't go into these bases. And just yesterday, we got Department of the Air Force 502 Air Base Wing, Joint Base San Antonio, where they've got thousands of these children. Remember, members of Congress aren't allowed in. Federal judges have ruled. Members of Congress, private security running it, total secret what's going on, saying he is banned and is not allowed to go onto the base ever again. It says that his actions have been detrimental to the maintenance and good order and discipline, as well as the safety and security of the installation that's involved in high treason. You are hereby put on notice that should you make an unauthorized entry onto the Joint Base San Antonio installations in the future, a department order will be issued and you will be probated from entering Lackland. And it just goes on to say, don't come on. So there you go. We're covering that at Infowars.com. Let's go to your calls. Dre, start over where you began because we ended the show and you didn't get a chance to break down what's happening. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, Mr. Jones, I'd like to salute you and everything you do. You and the whole Infowars operation is the new modern-day Paul Revere. You guys are the true Paul Reveres. But what I was saying is I'm Hispanic, and I'm against the illegal borders open up. I mean, the illegal crossing the borders because, like I said, we're trying to get people, citizens, off of welfare. And we can't get people off of welfare if we keep putting people on. You can't put a fire out if you keep adding gasoline to it. That's just not how it works. And like I said, people think I'm reverse racist because I'm against, these illegals. No, there's a proper way, a legal way to get into this country. I had family members who took them like 10, 15 years just to gain residency. And then another 5 years to get citizenship. And even they are like, what's going on here? We came here to work, and these kids are just coming here for welfare. That's not fair to the older generations.
No, it's not. And again, citizens are treated like total garbage. And then as long as you're illegal and of the group Obama wants to put into a racial category and politically control, then you have a red carpet. So it's also discriminatory on every single front as the country goes bankrupt. But, what you're saying, Dre, makes too much sense. You want to work and be successful and have a future. You don't want more than half the public on welfare or assistance. But the people that want Cloward and Piven, the people that want political control, they do, because of automation of farms and industry, they don't even need that many people working anymore. They can just politically buy folks off with a welfare check, which keeps them in a form of abject slavery, but they never know that because it's what they are brought up in. And so they're trying to do with the incredibly smart, hardworking Hispanic folks coming into the country, they're trying to turn them into a welfare class like they did the incredibly smart, hardworking black community 60 years ago, who by every metric they've just wrecked. I mean, illegitimacy from 11% to 90+%. Prison rates from very low. Blacks had a lower imprisonment rate than whites. Back in the 40s, it's higher than anybody has ever had, in this country. Something like 80% of black males have a criminal felony type record. I mean, it is crazy town what they've done. The government wants to become the daddy, not the men. And they are taking over. And we talked about that again with the professor earlier today. This is, again, taping on Thursday to air on July 4th. Daryl Hamamoto, and he broke it all down. He's a political scientist, high level, trained by the Rockefellers. Rockefeller award winning, inside blowing the whistle. So it's simply bombshell. And they just say, if you're Hispanic, you're for gun control. If you're Hispanic, you're for the Latinas running everything. Latino women. You've been told you're the anointed ones and have all the answers by the big foundations to be the dominators, to destroy your future and your children. You're smart. You're not stupid. Quit buying into it. Quit buying in to being the house slave. Anything else, Dre?
Yes. We talk about all these impeachable stuff that Obama's doing. I believe that he's doing it on purpose so that when the Democrats, like myself, I voted for him the first time. The second time I did it. But you get all these Obama supporters, blacks, Hispanics, and everybody on welfare, pretty much. If he gets impeached, they're going to look at it as racist. That will cause a civil unrest, which I think will justify the drone attacks and the whole martial law and FEMA camps. That's just my theory.
Definitely. You know, we kept saying there were many detonators for martial law on the next level. And we had said it could be imploding the borders, because that was in Rex 84 back in the 80s, a plan that bipartisan globalists had come up with, Inouye and others, right along with the leadership of other countries that were planning to do it as well in their nations. And it could be a nuclear war. It could be a larger Middle East war, which they're starting with ISIS right now. I mean, our criminal government's in the middle of starting all that with Saudi Arabia and others. A sectarian, again, civil war, ruling the diverse cultures of the Middle East with a sectarian Shiite Sunni civil war publicly started by the West. I mean, it's the same story. And they want to set up cultural divides here in this country, not let Hispanics assimilate and pick up the American culture that they wanted to get to own property, have guns, and be free, and replace it with a socialist Hispanic culture. I mean, who wants that? Hispanics don't want that. Hispanics, on average, at least Mexicans, it's on record, run from welfare until now, because they're advertising in the news, if you're a lazy welfare person, come here, it's a free ride. And it's just incredible. It's absolutely amazing. God bless you. Appreciate the call, Dre. George in Connecticut on July 4th. Go ahead. You're on the air. George, you want us to come back to you? Because you aren't there, George. We're going to come back to you in a moment. Let's go to Jane in Austin, Texas. You're on the air, Jane.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I've been trying to get this information to you for just a little over a year now. I'm a long-time listener, and I always hear you talk about them pushing the cashless society, and you always mention how it's happening in England. Well, it's happening in our own backyard. I live in Austin, and they built a new, smaller Walmart right on Anderson Mill Road, and a year ago, and it's still like that today, I went in there trying to purchase some water shoes or something, and they informed me that that store does not take cash whatsoever, no cash. And I was floored. I'm like, oh, my God, this is what Alex has been talking about. It's here. And
Where is that located?
It's on Anderson Mill, right across from the Alamo Draft House. There's the people in that neighborhood fought to have it built, so they agreed to build a smaller Walmart. It's still pretty big, but it's
that is huge news. Texas Walmart only takes credit cards, or Walmart goes cashless. You're saying that's a Walmart?
It's more. It's a lot bigger than that. When I went in there to purchase one item, I went to pay for it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I'm like, so I started hassling the attendant that watches over the registers. I'm like, are you serious? You don't take any cash? And they're like, no, ma'am, nothing, no cash in this store. And so I started raising Cain about it, and I'm like, what's going on? She said, well, this is Walmart's test store. And so they never changed it. It's still cashless.
Oh, that's
but
huge.
Here's the crazy part. When I went to pay for the item, on the screen, before it would let me purchase anything, it brought up on the screen like a 3-paragraph contract. And it made you read all this stuff, and at the bottom was a button that you had to agree to it and press yes, that you agreed that you would not pay cash, and then it would ring up the item that you had. I couldn't even speak walking out of there. I'm like, oh, my God.
Say that again. It made you verify what?
It was a 3-paragraph, a lot of words. You couldn't even read it all. And what it was saying was, I agree to this, yes, I won't pay cash.
Well, listen, you can pull up the Washington Post from like 5 years ago admitting that Disney World is really a Pentagon testing ground of mind control to test controlled cities, and that they developed the plan for Fallujah to control populations off of, I forget the name of it. It's not Disneyland or Disney World in the U.S. It's some Disney community that I didn't even know about, where you like live in this Disney community. But the point is, people can look it up, and they admitted that it's a PSYOP, and they were also doing it in Disney France or Disney EU That is just incredible that happened. I believe you. We're going to send reporters there. That is so huge. We knew all this was coming. Israel announced last month they're going cashless. England announced last month they're going cashless back in June. This is the total control paradigm that we're dealing with, Jane, and they mean business. And then again, once you're cashless, they can force you to do whatever they want, take money out, charge you, fee you, track you, totally control you, shut down any underground markets that you would need under a tyranny. Next segment's coming up. We'll take more calls from Nathan and George, and in this hour, this original hour, doesn't mean it's live, I taped it on Thursday. I taped it right now on July 3rd, but you're listening on July 4th because even when I'm not here on a holiday, I've made the decision to be here on the holiday to give you original transmissions. We are not just the tip of the spear in the real new media. We are the hardest working folks in media, period, and we love freedom. We're like pit bulls that want to get in that arena and live to fight. Because Americans love to fight and love to be free, and we're not going to be losers anymore. I want the power to be free. I'm going to bang my head up against the New World Order, and I'm not stopping. Nathan in Kansas, then George. Take us out of this hour, Nathan. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, it's an honor to be with you, and it's an honor to be rebroadcast on 4th of July. I'm probably one of the bigger patriots that I know of. Basically, I'm a contractor here in Kansas City, and being a contractor, I see what happens with the influx of cheap labor. I say that I live in Kansas City, but I tell you what, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone.
Well, it's just like inflation. It drives down all the wages, doesn't even help Mexico or the third world countries. It just sinks us. It's like if people sink one lifeboat and jump in the next, they just sink it. It's ridiculous. You use built-up wealthy nations that then make the nations around them richer, like Switzerland. Look, Ross Perot broke this down. The globalists want us poor. Exactly. It's incredible. Look at our wages going down. Look at the country going down. It's on purpose. Go ahead.
Well, and kind of, I mean, just kind of bolstering what you say, I mean, I spend my money locally. You know, I mean, I'm going in and I'm, you know, going out to eat and I'm, you know, tipping 20%. And, you know, I'm actually helping our local community.
You're a terrorist.
You know, I am. You know what? I'm probably on that list. And if I am, I want to star by my name.
Well, you know, that's another problem for the NSA. What happens when everybody's on the list? And see, we know the good guys are on the list. The bad guys aren't on the list. Thanks for making a list.
Yeah, exactly. One of the reasons why I said that I feel like I'm in the twilight zone is actually as I was waiting to get on with you, I did some research and see now I actually live in Kansas City, and the NAFTA Superhighway Hub is here. Now there's 4 different branches of it, or 4 different spots: the Intermodal Hub, KCI International Business Center, Northland Park, Logistics Park KC, Centerport Intermodal Center. They're all ran by the Port Authority.
No. They built a Port Authority up there to run all the goods up there to make sure nobody makes money locally. It's a great point. Do a YouTube video on it. Final caller, Georgia, Connecticut, real quick. Thanks for calling in. You're on the air.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest that we should get some guests on that teach us how to sue our representatives when they don't represent our interests on the border especially. And we should force them to basically send all those tanks they're giving police down to the border and maybe send the TSA or TNA is what we really should call them to the border if instead of molesting us in the thing, sending all these people, including those military people overseas. But I wish you would give Lord Moncton, we give him a new title, Lord and Savior of global warming, and put it on one of those what do you call it, light sabers.
It's a good idea. No, Moncton has done an incredible job. I wasn't trying to grovel to him when I had him on the air Thursday. He's done so much. People just don't know how much he's done. And it's a testament to what individuals can do.